They broke the base of this. They did leave the little angel and the crystals. They broke this one. This was broken before, and then it got broken again. And then this one, they not only did they this one had flowers in it yesterday, and they took out that and the flower pots. And then this one, they removed um, all the cross that was here, the cross that was here. And then this one, they broke it off at the base, and they had to kick some of the rocks away. Okay, they broke that one at the base. This one they just took out, so it must have come out all easily enough. And then this one they took out. This was a side of the cross too. So I made a police report when the 5 crosses were taken out. I'm not sure if somebody filed a police report on the 12 because by then we were already working with the county.
Okay. I filed a public information request, and
Oh.
they said they didn't have any information on.
Oh, really?
I think that's kind of interesting.
In 2007, the New Mexico legislature passed a law saying it's a misdemeanor if you deface a descanso in New Mexico. So that sends a message. It shows you historically that people in New Mexico know their history and they remember their history. And they know that from the Spanish colonial period all the way to the present, this is an important matter for family members, to remember a loved one. You see descansos everywhere in northern New Mexico. You see them in Albuquerque and in other parts of New Mexico as well. But I know that guests sometimes and friends who are visiting, they say, "What are these little crosses sometimes that are on the side of the road?" And I said, "It's called a descanso, the Jornada del Muerto, the dead man's journey, that 100-mile stretch from Las Cruces to Socorro." That's kind of the origins for this term and the evolution of this term from that journey, and then it evolved from the Spanish colonial era to the Mexican period to the territorial and into the modern era. So if you think about it, this term has 400 years of cultural relevance in New Mexico. That's pretty amazing to me. That for 400 consecutive years, culturally, families have been doing this practice in northern New Mexico and in all parts of New Mexico. 400 years.
I had a friend here in town who was friends with the group that started putting up the crosses for the descanso. The gentleman invited me and said that there was going to be a very small but peaceful gathering, a memorial over at the gates. It was hard to be there in the presence, and they had the descanso with images and photos and messages and items there. There was children's clothing there that were, and teddy bears and the crosses and the names. And I have a daughter who is 12 years old now, child, and just understanding that, that was the typical age of the girls that were the children that were being taken there and abused was and right there, literally, right there in Santa Fe County in our backyard. And it was very sobering to be there. We need something that's healing. Whenever we come together as a community and address an issue this big and how traumatizing this has been, for first and foremost our survivors, but as a community and as and just as the public, that we need to figure out a way to bring some healing. And I know that Commissioner Bustamante, who is a friend of mine and just a compassionate leader, she would be very interested in trying to help with this. And so what she did when she was contacted, and she was contacted by one of the organizations and one of the victims, is she said what we could get done really quickly through the county is start a task force led by the victims or survivors, I should say. And so she did. And she put that together pretty quickly. And so this has just been a couple of months, honestly, that we've been working together. The bright side of this as well was that when the Truth Commission met in June for the first time, the first public meeting, they said that this was an important measure for them as well, to have some kind of permanent memorial.
Every time I'm out there, I feel like there's at least like 2 cars that stop by, which seems very high interest.
It is. It is. It's a symbol on the side of the road, and unfortunately, for the survivors, for those who were there at the time, and then fortunately that we have a place where we can create what I would see to be a national, international acknowledgement that this is intolerable, and that we recognize that anyone who goes through anything like this, first, it's intolerable, and if you've been through it, that survivors matter. The permanent memorial concept came to mind when I had a conversation with one of the survivors who said that it felt triggering when it got removed, when things were taken down, and that she wanted a place where she could reflect, she and other survivors could reflect and heal, knowing what happened there, and that it doesn't happen there at all anymore. So it really became apparent that something more formal was due in recognizing, and supporting those survivors.
And then, so the transition to a permanent memorial, can you explain the terminology, if it should be referred to as a memorial or descanso?
This would be a memorial. A descanso, as I mentioned, and many people have probably seen them, are the roadside memorials, and descansos are protected by law. They're usually smaller in size because of the interest, the public's interest in this particular subject, and frankly, I think the breadth of how often these types of situations occur, it became very symbolic for people. And stuffed animals, flowers, both natural and manufactured, were starting to pile up along the side of the road on the easement. In talking with the importance of having something that recognized their ability to overcome what happened there became very apparent. It is in the middle of nowhere, and it is a place that was chosen specifically because little would be known about what was actually happening out there. So it is a very symbolic and open space for reclamation and what it's meant to all survivors, including the missing, murdered Indigenous women, people who have suffered from domestic abuse, etc., 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 and the importance of having a place that is designed and located by the, in this particular case, the sisterhood, the survivor sisters, the women who had been at the ranch, to define it and to be empowered to say this is a symbol of recovery.